So how's everyone doing today? Good?
I feel like a little kid.
All right.
Isn't it fun?
So, first of all, let's start off with a video. Actually, raise hands. How many have know what VR is? Woo. Good. How many knows what AR is? All right, even better. All right, let's start off with a video first. Oh.
Do you think it could be a SQL injection attack?
This is mission critical. All of our jobs are on the line.
It could take us hours, days, even to get the site back up online.
If we don't get our site back up and running, this whole new venture is going to go down faster than a bitchin' heated dog park.
Good for her. I'm sure she's happy being a stay-at-home mom. It's a lot less stress.
Hey, people might actually have to start talking to each other again.
Hey, bro. Looks like our backup idea isn't feasible.
May I speak with him, please?
Damn, dude. Tinder's down too. How's my date gonna find me?
Hey, somebody get this guy a raise, okay?
It wasn't all me.
Good job, son.
It was a team effort, really, Ray.
Keep up the fantastic work.
We have an amazing, yes sir, new product to roll out.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Neilda Pacquing, and I'm here with an amazing panel talking about the future technology, inclusion, virtual reality, and augmented reality. So what we want to cover today is to basically get an understanding of the current landscape of virtual reality and augmented reality, and then find out how to make the industry space more inclusive. So I'm going to give it to our panelists to introduce themselves.
All right. My name is Nicole Lazzaro. I'm the head of Zio Design, and we've got about 25 years of creating games. I designed the first iPhone game, as well as I have a game called Tilt World that plants trees in Madagascar. I'm also the lead engineer on our new game, which is Follow the White Rabbit, we might talk about, and the 4 Keys to Fun. But with some of our games, we've actually planted like 16,000 trees on the island of Madagascar, and we're like going to plant 1 million in 2020. I'm all about impact gaming, so games that change the world. We've worked on games like Myst and The Sims and Diner Dash and Star Wars, but we really are about like games that can change.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Samantha, and I have my own agency that works on bootstrapping the metaverse, so working on web infrastructure that allows people to have personal presence over their data, and markup language that takes 2D to 3D, not necessarily turning everything to 3D, but parsing out what should be 3D and what should be 2D, and giving people complete control over their servers and their data so that they can be a part of the sort of tech boom without selling their soul.
Hi, my name is Nathalie Mathe. I'm the VR filmmaker that created the U-Turn VR film. You just saw the trailer. It's a short experience where you can experience being a woman working in a startup from her point of view, but also from her male boss point of view. So we saw that VR was the perfect tool to immerse people into and create more understanding of the gender issues in the workplace. Before going as an indie creator and creating my own company, I worked for 2 years at some of the major VR companies like Jaunt and Condition One. And before that, my background is in filmmaking and visual effects. I was working with some of the big studios on the post-production for Skyfall and Dark Knight Rises and Fast and Furious 6. And even before that, I had another life working as a computer scientist for NASA. So my background is both like tech and creative, and that's what really attracted me to virtual reality. That's where I could use all my skills and and really use the tech to do like an experiment with storytelling and for social impact.
Very cool. Hi, I'm Naomi Assaraf. I'm a co-founder and CMO over at a company called Cloud HQ. And we focus on Gmail productivity apps. We just broke over 6,000 new users last week, so we do that every week. And our goal is to have at least 1 million users by January. And what we like to focus on is give access, web access, obviously, to anybody who needs it. We have over 33 products. They're almost all in freemium products, so anybody can use it to help them with Gmail. One of them was video email, which we all used, a good portion of us anyways, to prep for this, where you videotape yourselves. And we noticed that a lot of educators are asking their students to practice interviewing, and they do it on video email, and they do it right out of email. And so we have over 33 products that you can use that we've made for that. So that's Cloud HQ. And then in my spare time, I code VR apps. So right now, I'm almost finished my first app, where you're a trumpet player in VR. Thank you.
I love how all of us have very diverse experiences working in the VR space. So for the first question, what are some of the current challenges you've experienced in the space, and what helped you succeed to get to where you are today? You want to start?
Sure, yeah. So there's, I think for us, in terms of virtual reality, I've been in games for, as I said, 25 years. One of the biggest challenges with VR is the kind of content I wanted to make was very different than the kind of content that most people were funding. So my games don't have guns, and this is a game about a magician who's been a charlatan like all his life, until one day his magic actually works, and poof, the rabbit disappears. Wearing a priceless diamond bracelet, so now everyone wants to follow the white rabbit. So that's been my biggest challenge in getting to VR, is that this is a very family-friendly, all ages. Certainly there's a demographic for it, but it's really convincing the captains of capital to fund our game.
I think the biggest challenge has been getting over Chris Milk's talk where he said VR was the ultimate empathy machine. Which I think is a load of crap, and getting people to actually understand that this is a tool that can be used for any number of things. It can just be a useful widget on a website, and I think there was a lot of hype and preconceived notions about what VR would be good for and what problems it would solve, instead of coming at it from this well, what the heck? And what can we do? And I think the games that really succeeded were playful games like my friends that made Alchemy. They made Job Simulator, and they started Job Simulator just by being like, what's it like to play with blocks in this space? Not coming in there being like, it's going to be awesome. And it's cute, because usually when somebody first tries VR, the first things they say to me is this is going to be a game changer for real estate, and other things like that, or they go into something that's this is what it's going to fix. But everybody has that, and all it is another plane for us to explore, and we need to have a completely open mind for that. And I see the same players over and over again. They must sponsor the conference and then get a speaking thing and be like, we are looking for the killer app. We're looking for that piece of content that pulls everybody into the headsets. And it's I'm sorry, I've been to so many conferences where people are in headsets, and I've seen every third person get hit in the nuts by their friend, and I'm like, that's not cool. This is not a fun experience to go expose yourself and put in this headset and be completely vulnerable in the physical world. So I think that accessibility to this medium, which is trapped away in these headsets and apps and closed experiences, is the biggest challenge we're facing. That's why I do what I do, which is make it accessible through the web. Because if you can share something through a link, right away you're opening up people to the web and new experiences, and not putting them into a little app or thing that you can't grow from. The very notion that you download something and it's a size should tell you that that's it. And so you're like, oh, that's 4 gigs of this, I guess. It's I want people to continuously explore this plane in this medium and ask questions, and I think that yeah, that's been my biggest frustration is the idea that content will save this, and I just don't think that that's the truth, personally.
So the format, being able to be open on the web as opposed to like a device.
Yeah, I mean, or just being platform agnostic, or just exploring what it means to sort of play in that space, but giving people more tools to play, not trying to tell them what it is. I think a lot of people come into VR because they had that moment, and then they want that to be everybody else's moment. But I think the most magical thing you can do is kind of like, you know, we put somebody into a drawing program and let them have that self-discovery. I think that attracts people to it more than just being a cool game or a cool this, is letting people find out what it means to them.
Sounds like basically bringing in a great user experience into the process.
Exactly.
How about you, Nat?
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenge, besides what has been said already about the funding, was to put the right creative team together for this project. And we went through a few iterations of brainstorming with some people who ended up not having the commitment to be on the project, to starting to work with some other people who ended up having a very different vision for the project and not having necessarily the right skills, to finally the core creative team that worked on U-Turn, which were me as the main creator, and Ryan Lynch, who is coming from traditional films and writing. So she was the writer-director for on stage. And then Justin Chin, who was coming from gaming and also a cinematographer and also an editor. So we all had like multiple skills, basically, that were complementary. And I really wanted to have a man on the team as well to get his perspective on what we were trying to create, because we are really trying to target a male audience to bring more awareness to them. So it was a very good complementary skills. And then, the challenges and how I overcame them, it's like we failed several times, but it taught me a lot about, even if you are working with your friends, everything can go wrong and you can end up not liking each other or not wanting to work with each other at some point. So it's really good to write contracts and to have legal advice and all the stuff. So basically, I had to learn to be an entrepreneur, like to create this piece. I had to create my own company, to have contracts, to protect the IP, to do all those things. So this was a great learning curve from this point of view.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about just being really aware of your surroundings and trusting your gut, and knowing also when it's right for you to walk away. So I went to school in the evening to learn how to code C# and Unity because I wanted to start creating some apps. And the school was kind of shrouded prior to my signing up for it in kind of some strange, there was a lawsuit against it actually, and it was very, it wasn't supposed to be very inclusive for females, although I never experienced that myself while I was there. But knowing that, it kind of was like in the back of my mind that I don't kind of want to support them. And when you don't stick up for something, when you say nothing, that says something. And I want people to be very aware of that. So while in that course, we had graduated, and then there was like a follow-up course. And rather than going to the follow-up course, what I decided to do is I found a teacher, a private tutor, who supports women in VR specifically. So I was like, beautiful, I'm a woman and I'd like to code in VR. And he came to my place, my house, and he gave me one-on-one lessons to help me finish my app. So my money went to somebody who supports minorities in VR versus a school where we're not really sure whether or not females are very accepted there. And so be aware of your surroundings. Definitely say something, just to recapitulate there, and trust your gut, and know when to walk away. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to take your time and just do something. Even the smallest little action can say a lot. So don't underestimate yourself.
Those are great points. So with the next question, how can we make diverse creators succeed in this industry?
Sorry?
How can we make diverse creators succeed?
Great. Well, I think there's really, from my point of view, it really boils down to three things. First is leadership, okay, in the space in terms of how to be successful. I am part of the women in gaming community. We were targeted before the elections by Gamergate a couple years before, so Bannon and Milo and all of that. And what we did is when we realized that none of our leaders were leading, we had to lead ourselves. So we came up with a number of strategies. A great one, though, is simply we modeled leadership. So when I'm on stage or when I'm on a forum or when I'm on a phone call, I want to model the leadership response. Even if I don't know what that is, I just in my head, what is the leadership thing to do here? Then we provide opportunity. So my motto is I take half a dozen women with me wherever I go. Whether it's physically, on a slide, in a quote, somebody's going to come in. If that door is open, I'm bringing 6 of us through. So that has a multiplicative effect. And then finally, they've got, we want to showcase results. So when people are successful, we want to bring that back to the community and say, hey, we got Barbie to recall a product. Hey, we got Intel to write us an apology check. Hey, we got this to happen. So that's all real important. So then after leadership becomes funding. If we don't have inclusively funded teams, led teams, nothing will change. If it's inclusively led, everything really becomes super easy. From that, because everybody's a lot more aware, and you don't have that traditional thing. We have a practice, the 21st century leadership, style, and we're looking at diversity and inclusion. If you go to leadershipfordiversity.com, you can sign up. There's also a set of references and an enormous list of best practices. Over 200 people have signed so far, and this is like practical how, why. This is like solutions that you can go right off the bat. And great, real practical stuff. And then the last thing I wanted to say was that for me personally, what I do is if the odds are 10 to 1 against, because I'm female-led team out there on the funding, I'm funding White Rabbit and another game, then I have to, just like Wonder Woman in that movie, I got to train 10 times harder, right? And I did this as a martial artist. I've actually won medals as a martial artist in a co-ed competition, in co-ed competitions, mind you, I would do twice as many reps in class as the instructor said, right? I would be 4 hours, 8 hours on the mat, when we had practice. And then when I was home, I was doing it with leg weights and high-heeled boots. Okay? And that's what it takes. And I'm just taking it on as a challenge. You can moan and complain, and there are lots of things. And really, the only position for that for me is that, when I see something that's really weird and odd, why was that person so angry that I was asking, for funding, or I was being awesome? And it's unconscious bias, just brush it off, and move on. And that's how we move forward.
I think personally for me, you have to build what you're passionate about, and you'll find a million people who are also passionate about that, and they'll probably all look different and all act differently and have different ideas, and it has to be a passion-based focus, or otherwise you're telling other people how to live their life and they're not really going to listen to you. And I think you have to have I believe in the equality of opportunity, not outcome, and I don't see that. I take tremendous issue with the fact that there are women in gaming and women in VR and women in thing groups, because I think all that it does is separate us further. And I would implore others to treat people on an individual basis and to go outside of your comfort zones and seek new ideas. And that if you truly focus in on what your passion is and what you're good at and what your difference is, then you'll build something entirely new, and none of that stuff matters. You have the ability and the power to build something new, because this is a brand new medium, and it doesn't matter what those other fools are doing. And if they don't see you, then screw them. Go do something better, because if somebody doesn't see you as whole, they're not whole. Why would you want to work with them? Why do you want an apology check? Who cares? there are plenty of people out there that want to work with you, but it has to come from a place of passion and not a place of taking things down. That's my opinion.
So there are many things, and definitely we need to find a way to provide more access to funding to diverse creators, because for me, it's the biggest hurdle. This first piece, I created totally bootstrapped with my own funding, with some in-kind support from some tech companies, some free cameras, some free space and location, but this was not even like 10% of the total budget. So if for the next project I don't succeed at getting funding this time, there is no way I can do it. Like my saving is at zero now, so it's like I can use that as a portfolio piece to pitch and get better access to funding for the next project. So definitely, the funding is in the VR space. You have to be really creative, and right now it's very chaotic. There are the VC funder for tech companies, but I don't create tech. Then there are some investors for gaming, but I don't create games. Then the traditional film and media companies, they do invest in some VR content that is more narrative and storytelling, but they are kind of late in the game. I mean, in Hollywood, yes, they are starting. So it's like you have all those different players, and then if you go to tech companies, they want you to use their tech, And I'm like, I don't need this camera, It's like I'm going to use the best camera for my project, not necessarily this camera or this distribution platform that doesn't support my sound format or whatever. So there are like a lot of issues, and I wish, in the US we had something more akin to what they have in Canada and Europe, which is some state funding to support diverse creators, but it's not there. So we need to find or fund, creators labs and structures. Because if I had, I've learned so much in the past 2 years, and having access to the right people makes a tremendous difference, being in the right network. If you totally are starting up in VR, it's great to go to all the meetups and to meet other people like you and to learn to code and to get support from your peers and support from other women. I don't really agree with you, because for 20 years in my career, I had absolutely no woman network. And it was really, difficult to succeed, and some of the reasons why some stuff I didn't get promoted when I saw my male peer being promoted and other stuff, I didn't really get it until I finally started to look at, there is a culture out there, like a patriarchy that really supports, men and not women. So having a woman network for me has been very empowering, but, at the same time, all the support, the practical support I got in terms of in-kind support or networking has been from men, because they are the one in power right now, and in the positions to help me. So, we have to be realistic also that that's what's happening, and I think that trying to convince the people who have the money to put up those diverse funds or some foundations or some women's organization to support that is very important, because I don't want everyone to have to go through what I have been through. It's great to learn on your own, but it would have been really great if I had had easier access to all this knowledge.
Thank you, Nat. How about you, Naomi?
Well, just before I talk about what I think about that, I just want to add on also that, men can be great allies. Mm-hmm. It's not like them versus us. It's not like there's also a large pocket of people who want to support you. So what you have to do, it's your job to leverage your network and find your support community. So that's really important. I'm going to just add on that. And then to support the community, the VR and AR community, I think it's really important if you're organizing any meetups or Facebook fan pages, or if you're an employer, it's your job to make sure that it's inclusive and welcoming to your entire group, whether it's your employees or your meetups. And if you don't do anything as somebody who's a member of that group, you should leave, because you don't need to be in a place that's not inclusive. So you have to know when to walk away. but it's their job. People who are organizing these meetups, it's their job to protect you and to make sure you feel good and comfortable in a place that you can contribute.
Yeah, and I just want to echo with the conference thing. That's definitely another of my strategies, is because you want to look at all the resistance to be inclusive. It's simply, a lot of it's unconscious bias, and the mind is closed. So I have a degree in psychology from Stanford, and it's like you're closed. But in a conference setting, you're often open. Oh, new tech. Oh, wow, you're curious, right? So the people you might approach, I often have a much better response, just bouncing around, and there's no gatekeepers, nobody keeping me out, nobody kicking me out. So I find the conference environment and meetup environment especially helpful for advancing, and meeting the people that I need to meet. And I've got, at least a dozen advisors, and a lot of them are male because they've been there and they're helping me.
Exactly.
Awesome.
I've done the same approach, gone to so many meetups and participated in as many groups as I could, just so that I could get that mass exposure at such a rapid rate.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have some time for some Q&A. Does anybody have any questions in the audience for our lovely panel? Yes? We have one here.
One of you mentioned a phrase that I hadn't ever heard before, and it was equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. Can each of you tell me what that statement means to you?
Yes. Equality of opportunity means that you should try and set up an environment where everybody has the tools to create and the tools to succeed, and not be taking it based off of an outcome of what inclusion looks like to you, which even signing up for this conference, I got asked a lot of questions that were mandatory that did not ask me a single question about anything positive in my life. So right off the bat, I know that data is getting used in some way that probably I won't align with. Like the fact that I'm an immigrant and I came down here with $200 in my pocket will be canceled out by maybe perhaps the fact that I'm a white female. I don't know, but I do know that having women in VR groups and groups that cultivate this idea of a safe place become echo chambers, and they don't equip you with the tools to go out and get funding because you're coming in there with this preconceived notion that you are oppressed.
And that's you can't fundraise with that attitude at all. You can't, as oppressed, you cannot.
No, you can't. You can't walk into the room being like, these people, like, I think the most dangerous and thing that will hold you back is this notion that there is a patriarchy oppressing you and not a carefully constructed mess of ideas that we're all just very carefully agreeing on. The fact that the lights are on is a miracle to me. I see society as a delicate and complicated mess and balance, and coming into anything thinking that people have conspired against you will reflect in everything you do.
I'm sorry, but I have to contradict you because I don't see any of those group of women in VR defending that view.
That's because you're in a women in VR group and you don't get any other opinions. I'm terrified to even say my opinions because even when I talked to her on the phone yesterday.
No, I'm just saying I disagree with you. That's all. You are portraying it in a way that doesn't reflect my experience. That's all I'm saying.
And it's got to be a balance. And I think what I really like about and appreciate what you're saying is that, if you get a group and the group is getting there to complain, just like this conference has a lot of signage, right? Solutions, people not complaining. And it's a coin, right? On one side of the coin, it's you're the victim. And so a leadership strategy is you want to flip that coin, because the other side of the coin is a victim complains and a hero takes action. And I have a lot of hero networks. They happen to be, women focused, but we would never have gotten through Gamergate, if we hadn't had the place to strategize. And we were super, absolutely people could vent, but we had outcomes. We were very driven to make a difference, in everybody's lives. So I definitely you do not want a pity circle. That will not get you anywhere.
No, I agree with that. Yeah,
definitely. Although sometimes it also helps you push stronger, too. So, for example, initially, when I signed on with Cloud HQ as a co-founder, we had like 74,000 users, right? And we were thinking, okay, the way to grow is to get some funding. And it was hard for us to get funding. We're also all immigrants. I'm Canadian, my co-founder is Slovenian, my other co-founder is also Slovenian. It was really difficult. And the way to push through was just to say, you know what, users cure everything, like growth cures everything. And we just focused everything in on the business. And right now, VCs are coming to us and we don't even need it. It's like, the best possible position. So use it. Like, if you're aware of it and you feel like, oh, you've been passed up for promotion or you've been passed up for something because of your situation in life, use it as your fire, and you'll succeed.
I think that's a great place to stop. Thank you so much. I really love this diversity in the panel, and I hope you got a lot out of it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.